Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Medieval Dynasty and we're bringing you another guide. This one is going to be 8 more tips for a good game. So I did one earlier where I was talking about some tips that are important for a good starter to have a good game. And while playing, I came up with 8 more that I think are kind of a big deal. So it's not only a what to do, but a what not to do. So these are going to be useful tips. So the first one I'm going to do, we can roll right into it, is get married as quickly as you can. And now there's multiple reasons for that. One, you need an heir. And so, because that's how you build a dynasty, you need an heir. And the only way to get an heir is to get married and have a kid. And you want that to happen quickly so it can grow up. So you want this kid to be able to grow up so you can start assigning him to stuff. He or she, I've only had sons so far, but I assume you can also have female. But I don't know because I don't know if it's available to play as a female. So I don't know. But you can assign them to stuff, start building up their skills, so that way, if and when you die of old age or whatever, get mauled by a bull, you can take over as your younger, heir or whatnot. So that's an important feature of the game, and you're going to want to do it early. So that's one reason. Another reason you're going to want to do this nice and early is because your spouse has valuable perks that you can offer. So you just go to here and say, can you help me with something? And there's an option to heal your wounds. So if you're ever poisoned or really wounded from getting mauled or something like that, you can come back home, have her heal your wounds, and she'll heal your wounds. So that comes in handy a lot. I mean, obviously, if you have lots of broadleaf plantain or St. John's wort or whatever. I think also if you're suffering from hypothermia, it's the same thing. You come here and she'll help you out. So that's awesome. Another thing is rethinking your talents. So basically, it'll reset all your skill points. And now this isn't something that you have to do a lot, but when you're leveling up your skills, it's great to use that first one, which is going to give you the knowledge boost. So you'll have like extraction knowledge. It's good to put your skill points in that because it's going to help you level up faster. Later, once you've gotten to level 10, you can't level up anymore. It's better to reset it and then use those skill points somewhere more useful. Because once you get all the way leveled up in that skill, there's no point in keeping it in the knowledge skill. So that's how you do that. So yeah, that's tip number 1 is definitely get married as early as you can. And to do that, you're going to need to pick out a female in a town. They're usually the best ones to go with are the ones who are not like living anywhere yet. They're going to be recruitable people. They just seem to be easier to sway in this department. Pick someone that's suitably young, usually in their mid to late 20s. And then just start flirting with them whenever you can. Remember what works on them and what doesn't. Generally speaking, my advice for that is avoid talking about yourself. Don't lie. Don't be like, oh, being rich is great. Because even if you have lots of money, that doesn't usually impress them. Neither just saying like, oh, I'm very strong. That normally works well on the ladies. Not very useful. That doesn't work on them. Things like, oh, you look as beautiful as the sky today. 50-50 shot, that one's going to work. Generally speaking, if you can ask them about themselves, like how do they feel, how they've been doing, that's great. Don't ask them how they enjoy their job. I haven't had one person in the game yet that has positively improved my relationship with them. So yeah, tip number 1 is definitely get married as early as you can. So tip number 2 is going to be do all of the missions. Okay, so you see these yellow exclamation marks basically at the beginning of every new season, which is going to be whether it goes from like fall to winter or winter to spring, spring to summer, etc. New missions can appear and they can be anywhere on the map. They're worth doing. They're normally something as simple as a fetch quest or maybe go hunt some animals, taking money from one person, going to another town, buying shoes, and then bringing them back. Things like that. They're real simple, but they're very important because if you go into management here, you can see your dynasty reputation. That goes up pretty slowly. Now, the initial missions that you're going to be able to do, your main story missions, are going to give you big boosts in that. But to get from one to the next, you usually have to get just a whole bunch of XP, or dynasty reputation to go up. So it'll be like, you'll have 8 objectives that are relatively easy, like build this building or I don't know, get this many villagers in your place. And then it'll be, and reach 5,000 dynasty reputation. So you need to gain that. And really the only way I've found about it is, I think you get a bunch of dynasty reputation when you pass from one to the next. So I guess if your kid's all grown up and you die and you grow on to the next one, you gain dynasty reputation. But that's pretty slow unless you die really frequently. So that's one way to go. But the other way is by doing missions. So you're going to want to take advantage of these missions whenever they pop up. I basically just do all of them. Some of them definitely get you more dynasty reputation than others. Like The one where you take gold coins and go to get shoes and then bring them back, I think that gives you like 5. But then you do one like go kill 6 wolves, which really isn't that hard, especially if you know where the wolves like to hang around. And that one will get you like 40. So it depends, but definitely that's a tip. Every season change. I mean, take care of your farming and all that sort of stuff. But then number 2 thing, unless it's tax season, because you want to do that on time. Number 2 thing, go do those missions, because they're going to get you that dynasty reputation, and it's very important. That sets how many buildings you can have, how many people you can have, etc. So, tip number 2, do all the missions. Tip number 3, do not kill domestic animals. So domestic animals are going to be anything you see in a town, whether they're your domestic animals or anyone else's. So these geese here, basically, if you use the highlight thing where you go into your inspector mode by pressing the left alt key, anything that shows up blue, don't kill them. I've tried it from various ways just out of curiosity, being real far away from the village at night, everyone's asleep. Kill one, trust me, you lose a lot of reputation. Let me demonstrate. So, a goose. You wouldn't think that would be that big of a deal. Let's check it out. 15 dynasty reputation. That's not so bad. How about a cow? 70 dynasty reputation. So, it's not a great call. I mean, you can skin them once you kill them, so I guess that's kind of fun. But not worth it. Much better to go out into the forest. I don't know if this is something that I'm the only one that was like, hey, maybe I could kill the sheep and get some wool because I don't have them yet. And maybe no one will notice. For some reason, they always notice. So I don't recommend doing it at all. Like I said, I don't know if anyone else was considering this, but that's my tip number 3. Don't kill any domestic animals. It's not worth it. So my 4th tip is going to be spears are the best for hunting. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a tip, but it's like just a general purpose rule. Spears are the best hunting weapons you can have. I mean any level of spears. Obviously, the higher level you go, the better, because like stone spears or iron spears, if you hit right in the like heart and lung area on a deer, it's almost always a one-shot kill. Headshots are one-shot kills. Stone or iron for a Vicent, a headshot's a 1 kill. Otherwise, you get like 2 body shots on most animals. Any small animals, they're one-shot kills. It's definitely just the way to go. Like I said, the wood spears they work fine. I definitely have probably killed more animals with wood spears than anything else, just because they're so easy to make. If you're out in the middle of nowhere with no weapon, you can very quickly cut down a tree and make yourself some wood spears. But yeah, that's the tip I'm going to go with. I mean, bows and crossbows have their perks, but the spears just really outweigh them. So that's even... You can see here I'm using most of the perks, or most of the things I've been talking about with them are for them as a throwing weapon. Another thing about the spears, they double as a melee weapon. So if something gets too close, like any of the charging animals, it's going to give you the ability to just quickly stab them. So not only do spears double as both a really good throwing weapon and a really good melee weapon, you get the advantage of not having a long reload time like you would with a crossbow. So the 3 best weapons in the game, at least from a ranged perspective, if you watched my video on that, are going to be your iron spear, your stone spear, and your crossbow, just because they have the most... like they do the most damage. But the crossbow has the slowest reload time out of any of them. Like it takes forever to crank your new crossbow bolt in, and that's even if you have the skill that makes that go quicker. Whereas with the spears, it's just a quick aim and throw. That's all it takes. Another advantage is how much more durable spears are than arrows. So once you've made some spears, you can collect them for a long time. I mean, wood spears aren't very durable. But your iron and your stone spears, you can use the same spears for a long time. Oh, and lastly, before we move off of the whole spear tip, they're also better than arrows for wounding your deer, because the spear just does a lot more damage inside them while they're moving. You can see when they do the twitch and the blood comes out. You throw a spear in the side of a deer like this, well, I mean, that's kind of the back. But you follow that deer around for a while, it's just going to fall over dead. You shoot one arrow in the side of a deer, it can take forever for that deer to die from, the wound. So the spear is also better for that. So yeah, overall, they're just much better hunting weapons. So for tip number 5, this is going to be kind of a... It's a subjective one, but I think it definitely is going to make the game just not only easier, but much more enjoyable. I don't even know about easier, but more enjoyable and more straightforward. And that's going to be to roleplay. Pick a career and go for that. I find it the game moves too fast if you're trying to do everything. So kind of the point is to build your village and get other people doing some work. So pick one thing that you like doing or that you want to focus on, and you do that, and then get yourself villagers that can do everything else. So kind of the way I've gone in this one, but I'm kind of more role-playing as a smith or a craftsman. I don't want to mine, so one of the first things I did was set up a mining camp at a nearby mine and assign a settler to it. So I could have that settler constantly mining, and I just go up there and collect iron whenever I need some, and then I stockpile it down here. You can see I've got almost 300 of it there in that chest. And then, of course, you know, you can smith stuff, and it's definitely a great way to make money, but it's also, you know, enjoyable. I think I like role-playing as that's kind of the thing I do. Or you could do farming, or you could be a hunter-gatherer, so that could be your big thing, or you could do this over here. You could sew, you could do all sorts of stuff. There's lots of different ways to role-play in the game. You could be a cook, like you could focus on just cooking and bake stuff and sell that. You know, there's all sorts of different ways to roleplay. But I find that if you do that, it doesn't leave you constantly scrambling from one thing to the next. Because for the first several years, I was doing everything, so you have to farm. Farming is so time-consuming. It's a good thing if that's all you're focusing on, but if it's not, it's so time-consuming. So that's one of the first things I'll put villagers on. And you can assign them to kind of do it all, so you don't even have to do it. So you just go in here, you find your villager. This first one's going to be your farming thing. Find one, you know, recruit one that's got a high farming stat, and then assign them to it, and then you just, you know, set your fields. So you can go in here, open details, you can set it to certain things. So let's say you want them planting cabbages in it. Boom. That's all you got to tell them to do. You do that, they're going to fertilize it, hoe it up, plant your cabbages, and then once the season's done, automatically, whoever you have assigned to being the field worker for it is going to go out there and harvest the stuff. So they're going to cut your grain and put it in your chest, or they're going to harvest your cabbages and put them in your chest or whatever. All you got to do is just tell them, okay, I want that all planted in flax, and that all planted in onions, and I don't know, oats. It has to be the right season for it, but if you have it set like that, they're going to do that. So it's definitely something that you don't need to do. And since I don't want to be spending all my time at the season change, because it takes like the first day at least of the season change, and you only get 3. So it takes at least that much to do your farming if you have even 2 small fields like I have here. So I'm role-playing as a smith. I'm not farming. I have people that can do the farming for me. So that is tip number 5. Tip number 6, and now this one is probably going to be like, yeah, duh, that, of course, you know, they talk about it all the time. But trust me, it snuck up on me. And that's pay attention to your villagers' happiness. Now, a good way around this, or not around this, but to help with this, is a diplomacy perk called Good Host. Level that up. It's super useful. It's going to help you get your additional mood for each inhabitant, so the bigger your village is, the happier your people are. So, kind of an important perk. But this thing right here, now high 60s, mid to high 60s, that's not bad. Like, that's pretty good for contentment. The best ways to kind of focus on this, talk to your people, make sure your reputation with them is good, make sure there's enough resources in the resource chest for all of them. So, like, if your demand over here says you need a certain amount of food or a certain amount of wood, make sure you've got that much in your storages. Otherwise, they're going to be unhappy. Try to assign them to a job that they're good at, because if they're good at something, it's likely that that's something that they enjoy. So try to do that for each person. That's what I've tried to focus on. Plus, it helps you with your effectiveness. I found a variety of food in the chest is good. So if you've got like some fruit tarts, fresh apples, meat dishes, all sorts of stuff, fresh vegetables, all that stuff in your food storage, it's going to help improve their mood just a little bit. Anything like that is going to be a big deal. And the reason why this one made it to my list was I was working one day and I kind of didn't notice that. I think it was I didn't have any logs in the resource chest, and I didn't have anyone assigned as a forester, and I didn't have any lumberjacks assigned. And so they ran out of wood, and that pissed off every single person in my village, and they all left at the exact same time. I didn't notice it because I was focusing on something else. But that's why you just got to check this every once in a while. Check the status in here. And this page is also super useful just on another note. So you can pop in here. You can see my resource storage is damaged. My henhouse is damaged. It's good to pop in there, fix those things, because that negatively affects their mood. So focus on it. Otherwise, they'll leave you. Like literally my first wife in this playthrough, and my son both disappeared from the village. No idea where they are now. I had to get remarried, have another heir. Big inconvenient thing, just because I didn't pay attention to their mood. So yeah, definitely tip number 6, pay attention to their happiness. So tip number 7 is a quick and easy one that I honestly was debating whether or not I should put it on here, but it was not really a no-brainer for me. Set traps around your settlement and regularly check them, because they'll fill up relatively quickly. And this has a lot of benefits. One of which being, so I'll just show you. You go into here, you do traps. You got rat traps, bird traps, rabbit traps, fishing nets. So I like to put the rat traps right in town, because if there are rats in here, I want to catch them. Maybe that's just a roleplay thing for me. I don't know if maybe they eat your food or something, but I don't want them. So that's a good thing. You get meat from them when you do it, so it's going to be a supply of food. Bird traps, you get meat and feathers from them, so it's good for crafting. Rabbit traps, meat and fur. So another crafting and plus more food. And the reason why I emphasize trapping here is because, like I said, I went a long time in the game without using them, and they do a lot of things. A, they're going to get you that XP in survival, which is going to be important for leveling up your survival perks. And that's important because it helps you unlock things like the fishing hut. So you're going to want to level that up, and it's a good passive way to do it because you don't have to do anything. You set the traps, you come back later, and you remove the animals, reset the traps. You can use them each, I think, 3 or 4 times, and it's a good system for a lot of reasons. And the reason I added it to the list is I didn't think of it for a long time. You do it in the tutorial, and then I didn't do it again until years into the game, and I was like, you know what? I think that'd be a good idea. And it is. It's just an excellent thing to do, and I think a lot of people forget about it. And so my final tip for this video is going to be really a simple one that I think a lot of people make a mistake, and they look at the short-term kind of game for it and don't look at the long-term repercussions. And that is, don't sell your raw materials. Now, I'm not saying don't ever sell raw materials. There are certain raw materials that are better to sell than to make them into anything, as long as you're not trying to level something up, because you actually make more of a profit. And a good example of that is some of the textile stuff. Some of that is better to stop a certain amount along the way instead of making it all the way into clothing. This tip here is, don't sell. So you see I'm picking up all these sticks and rocks and all that sort of stuff. I like to clean up my settlement after every season change. But don't just go and sell these. Yeah, you've got a bunch of extra sticks and maybe you don't need them. Maybe your settlement's all built up. Don't sell them. Pop them in your resource storage. A couple reasons for that. Resource storage, pretty much unlimited. I've put so much stuff into mine and literally never filled it. You don't want to get rid of them for so many reasons. A, you build stuff pretty frequently, and let's say you don't like the layout and you want to rebuild your whole town. I've got enough resources in there that's no big deal. Buildings, like you can see that I've got damaged buildings, they need to be repaired. So you're going to need logs, you're going to need thatch, you're going to need all sorts of stuff to repair your buildings along the way. Missions. There are tons of missions where people are going to need resources to fix their house, or they're going to have a missing recurve bow, even though they're a poor villager out in the middle of nowhere who probably never had a bow. And you're going to need stuff. So it's good to have those resources on hand. And like I said, since there doesn't seem to be a storage limit, it doesn't make any sense to go selling raw resources when you can just save them up. So yeah, that's kind of the last tip that I wanted to talk about, is don't get rid of them. Don't drop them on the ground. Don't go into town and sell your 1,000 sticks that you have sitting there. Keep them. You're going to need them later. So that is my 8 more tips for having a good game. Like I said, some of them are to-dos, some of them are to-not to-dos. And of course, there's a lot more to the game than just that stuff. But I think if you follow my first one, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out. And now this one, I think it's definitely going to help a lot when it comes time for playing your game. So that's all we have to say today. I hope you liked it, but we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.